maybe some, preconceptions that you had about, police, departments or police officers, or some things that you learned that maybe you didn't know, before going through this class. That stands out. Yeah.
How nice your officers are.
Well, that's
I'm serious, because I went on a ride along and I was really impressed. I don't know, I guess I always kind of thought that they were, haven't had that much contact with officers.
Right.
But they were just very human, very kind, very good people.
And I will tell you, in terms of, if there's, one compliment I love hearing, that is the probably number one on my list. And, something that I know we stress as an administration, as supervisors, is that, we want our officers to be outgoing, to be friendly, to leave everybody with a good feeling after they contact us. Because, we talk about this all the time. A lot of times, like you mentioned, that you probably in your life have not had a lot of contact with police officers, and we like to think that most people, are never a victim of crime, never had a need to call for a police officer. Maybe you were on a traffic stop, once or twice in your life, but probably don't have that many times to interact with a police officer. So those few precious times that we do interact with people, we want to leave it with an impression where people walk away with a good feeling, not just about Scahumburg Police Department, but as our profession as well. And over the last few years, there's our profession has taken a little bit of a beating in the media at times. Some of it probably for good reason, that there's officers that made mistakes and did things that they shouldn't have. Other times, I don't think it was good reason. There was, people weren't getting the full story and getting bits and pieces of it, and sometimes, officers were assumed guilty before all the facts came out, and that's frustrating. But either way, it's on us to change that. And so that's one of the things I know that we always drive home is, every chance we get to leave somebody with the real, true, impression of what police officers are like. We want to do that because we're human. We have bad days like everybody else from time to time, but for the most part, I think that you will find our officers in particular here go out of the way to really treat people the way they deserve to be treated. Even criminals, you'd be surprised how many people walk away after being arrested or whatever else, and still feel probably not happy that they got caught or arrested, but felt that they at least were treated fairly and treated with respect. Well, anything else?
Yes. I found it really interesting. If you're not part of this environment on a day-to-day basis, between my wife and I, now she was only here for a few classes, but it's absolutely amazing what all these people get involved in. You almost have to have a multifaceted degree to cope with this
and that's a
number of situations.
Yeah, and that is such a good point. And I'm sure you discussed it in the class because especially those of us that have been in the profession for quite a while, that our jobs have really expanded over the years. In terms of what we're expected and asked to do. And in some cases, a lot of times it's just because there's nobody else to do that particular job. And one of the areas that I don't know how much you talked about where we're called upon a lot more than we ever have been is dealing with mental health issues. And it is particularly in our state, I think it's throughout the country, but even more so in our state where there's just been so many cutbacks and in the mental health field that we're and end up dealing with a lot of people with very serious mental health issues. So, but I mean, the list goes on and on in terms of services that we provide now that we never used to in the past.
I don't remember if we mentioned it earlier in one of our presentations, but a while ago, like the chief said, when policing first started, I know that we had this warrior mentality, and now throughout the past few years, we're changing because, like you said, we are humans also. So we've also taken on the concept of having the guardian mentality as well as warrior. So what I like to brag about a lot of times is, yeah, I carry a gun, but I hope I never have to use it. And majority of the time, most of what I do at work is talking to people. Because when people see me sometimes just as a regular human being, just like they are, I can relate better to them. I can hopefully resolve issues a little bit faster. And remembering that I'm a human also, I can also de-escalate a situation a little bit faster. And some of you, mostly all of you, did ride-alongs, and I know that you probably saw that in practice. There was no showing off of, yeah, we've got these really awesome rifles, they've got scopes on them, blah, blah, blah. We don't even really talk about our weaponry as much as we used to in the past, because we rely on using our brains and having an education and being able to think outside the box sometimes to multitask and do different things that we didn't learn at the academy. But we're changing the mentality these days and doing more with less, as you said.
Yeah, I mean, that's a really good point, Karen, I think, a perfect example of that is, this class was during the period of time where we had the, what was, potentially a very serious, incident at Woodfield, and that, came out as a, as a shot, shots fired, as an active shooter in Woodfield Mall, with all the glass breaking, people thought, it was an active, and so, our officers, just before, seconds before that call came out, we had officers in different places throughout the community, talking to people, dealing with, mental health issues, dealing with, probably, animal issues with this, with that, and out there doing a lot of those guardian type things that Karen, mentioned, and within a split second, they had to become warriors and go, and every single officer that was working that day, went, as fast as they safely could to Woodfield Mall, putting their life in danger, to help, eliminate a potential threat there. And, thank goodness it turned out to be, much better than we thought it was. But, we had a lot of officers that were, ready to put their life on the line to save anybody that was in harm's way at the mall.
I want to comment how I thought it was very well trained professional, all the presentations, and also it personalizes it for me, because you see incidents on the news, like yesterday where the officer got shot, and now you personalize it. I mean, you're people. You're not a one-dimensional person.
Right.
On 10 o'clock news, oh, that's too bad that officer got hurt or injured or whatever. But
Yeah.
now you personalize it.
No, that's a good point. Yeah, thank you for saying that. Yeah, it definitely humanizes things a little bit. Yeah.
Harry, you have a question?
Yeah, I was unfortunate enough about 3 weeks ago to have a break-in at my house, and first of all, I didn't know that was part of the class. No one got hurt, but I was amazed at the professionalism that the officers took, and I see it, used in the classroom a little bit, but actually live, they were very professional. They did everything by the book. They told me what was going to happen. They asked me if I had any questions. A detective called me within a couple of days. So it actually does work. It's just not in the classroom. I was very amazed at the professionalism that you guys showed.
Well, first of all, I'm very sorry that happened, and I don't know if we discussed crime stats or anything like that, but Scahumburg is a very safe community, and luckily those types of things are not the norm here. But it is very good to hear that that it was handled the way it should have been, and because like I said, obviously that's a traumatic thing that happens to somebody, and I've had it happen to myself many years ago, having somebody break into my house, and you feel I'm sure I felt probably like you felt, you feel violated or victimized by that, and it's those are tough situations, and our goal is maybe to relieve that those feelings a little bit, and we love to, when we can, actually solve it and bring some closure to it, but glad to hear that it was handled the way it should have been.
I just have a quick funny story. I was waiting for my ride along, and I couldn't believe that they bought some donuts up there.
Oh, did they?
I should have taken a picture. It was just, they bought some donuts up there.
Yeah, well, you know, the donut jokes, are kind of old for, you know, for most people, but the fire department, it has not grown old for the fire department. Yeah, we hear the donut jokes from them every day still, yeah. Yeah. The newer police officers are more into, you know, bagels and. They're still round.
Green bars.
circular, but-
Just one more comment, I will highly recommend this to anyone that we know. I've learned so much, it's been awesome, I hope they'll continue it, because it really, it's been great.
Good, that's all I'm hearing, and, you know, and that's probably a perfect segue to, you know, thanking Karen and Paula and everybody that's participated.
How many times in a year we host this?
What's that?
How many times in the year we host this?
Twice a year, once in the spring and once in the fall.
All right. So now we have to wait for 2020?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
And then we have the youth CPA as well. They're all
And then also, you know, I want to, you know, thank our CPAS members, for not just helping with this class, but also everything that you do. And so I know, just to give you an example, an announcement just came out today that they're doing a Thanksgiving dinner for our officers on Thanksgiving, obviously. And then I know with some of the fundraising that they've done, they're looking for ideas on some things that they can buy for our police department. So thank you, so much for that.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
And thank you again for being here. We really appreciate it. Thank you.
So it's a graduation
So we just have a
ceremony.
quick couple of
The Citizens
housekeeping
Academy.
things. Number one, the surveys. I think some of you filled out a survey for Officer Miller.